All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining in today. We have Jane Franklin today for our Cyber Talk. Let me introduce Jane Frankland here. I'm sure most of you might be knowing Jane already. However, for those who don't know Jane, Jane is an award-winning entrepreneur, best-selling author, business consultant, accredited coach, keynote speaker, board advisor, and woman activist. She has over 23 years worth of experience in cybersecurity, has built and sold her own seven-figure hacking firm, and has been named as the third most influential person in the UK cybersecurity industry. Welcome, Jane, for Cyber Talk today. So happy to have you.
Thank you, Malini. It's really good to be here.
Sure. So let's start, Jane. So I would like to know, rather the audience would like to know, if you can share your experience and your journey in the cybersecurity so far. For 23 years, you have been for quite a long time. What has inspired you to take up the cybersecurity as a profession, and how has been your journey so far?
Yeah, so I, like most people, came into cybersecurity as an accident. So my background actually is in art and design. So I have a degree in woven textile design from Loughborough University. And I was encouraged to follow my heart by my parents, so I went off and did my art. And after I graduated, I accidentally fell pregnant with my first son. And I worked as a designer, as a freelance designer. I was really lucky. I got an agent, worked as a designer, became a nominated Young British Designer. And but the issue with it, although I was selling work in New York and Tokyo and Japan and having work in art galleries like Christie's, I actually wasn't bringing in regular income, and I was on my own with my son, and a decision had to be made. And someone said, look, you've got a good brain, it's time to put your art behind you and go and get a proper job. And this was before the internet, so I kind of accepted that and thought, well, it's a practical, where I was, it was just like, I can't continue like this. So I went and retrained, and funny enough, did something called a high-tech secretarial course. And it kind of makes me laugh now because of Steve Jobs's Stanford speech, where he says, it's only looking back you can connect the dots. And so technology has kind of like followed me around. When I did my art degree, I was attracted to one of the organizations because of the technology. It's that they had really cool tech. So I did that, and then I ended up in doing a sales job, which was a surprise because I'm actually an introvert. So for me, it was a case of, no, I'm not doing that sales stuff. But actually what I hadn't realized was when I was lugging my portfolio around to art galleries saying, will you show my work? Or when I was trying to go on holiday with my boyfriend and raise money because no one would employ me, and I made stuff and sold it and made a profit.
Wow.
That was selling, so in fact it was actually creating business. Already. Yeah, I just hadn't really realized. I was just solving a problem. That's all I was doing. So I ended up in this sales job after doing this high-tech secretarial course, and by that stage I'd met a new boyfriend, and he was in technology. And I'm just going to lower my seat, actually. It's probably like high. He was in technology, and what he said to me was, do you think we could go and start a company together? And for me, I was looking for a challenge because I like a challenge. And I was in my 20s, and the world is your oyster when you're certainly that age. You're invincible, you can do anything. And so I said, yeah, absolutely, let's go do it. So I left a very good career where I was actually making money and had it laid out in front of me to actually go and do a startup with literally 2 months worth of funding. No fallback or anything. It was just like, if we don't make money and then get the money in, so sell it and get that money in, we're out of business. So we started this company.
Took the risk. You took the risk of.
We took the risk. And we were very, very focused. So we knew why we were doing it. So what we wanted, exactly what we wanted. We knew the numbers and everything like that. So it was just like, we're going to do this. We're going to do it for 3 years. We're going to build it to sell it. We're going to come away with X amount of million. So we were so clear on what we wanted. Now, if anyone's Yeah, but it's, I've written this a few times in blogs because I write a lot of blogs and things like that. But there's the old, the old proverb or saying, man plans and man is also a woman, human plans and God laughs. So I had that company, I started that company with no knowledge of technology, but with that intention and aspiration. And because I didn't know anything about tech, the only two things that interested me really were AI. I thought that was absolutely fascinating, or security. And in 1997, AI was really too new to go and start a business in, but
Yeah.
security was feasible. So for us and for me, who was actually getting on the phone and like calling companies saying, this is who we are, this is what we believe, can we come in and have a conversation and do business? We led with security. So we offered a whole range of solutions. We were a value-added reseller, we were high-end tech, and we were really, really good on service. So, and we knew where we were different. So with that, I learned on the job. So I went straight into security, into business, my own business as a 20-something-year-old. And I learned on the job, and then recognized, because I'm good at spotting trends naturally and patterns and things like that. We niched. So we niched down and we became pure penetration testing or hacking after about 5 years, and went pure service. We were still one of a handful of the very early pen testers in our day. And I built a very innovative, very, very well respected global penetration testing. So we had offices in the Far East, in Australia, in Europe, and in
What
the
was the
UK.
name of the company
Yeah,
then?
it's called Corsair. It's
It's
still, I
still
think
there?
it's well, there's a story there. So I sold the company, and it didn't survive. So the assets
Oh,
were sold off. Another company bought it. I think they bought the name and the the employees effectively, and the
oh,
customers, and kind of kept it going, but under a hybrid name, I think. So it still kind of exists, but yeah,
in a different name.
in a different name. Yes, I have no idea what it does now or how it's doing at all. So that was really quite a long time ago. But yeah, and then
That's
after
quite
that,
interesting. I mean, I must say, I mean, being a hacker and then learning on the job and still running the business, I'm sure you might have done quite well. Really.
absolutely, yeah, it was really good. It's something that I'm really proud of. And yeah, I owned that for 16 years. And then I went off to do various executive positions at various consulting companies. And then a few years ago, probably about 5 years ago, I mean, time really flies. I really started working with security entrepreneurs to grow and scale their businesses, whether they were startups or whether
Yeah.
they were existing and wanted to scale. And then I wrote the blog on women. It was just like it was time. I felt I had to do it, and
Yeah.
that led to the book and a lot of the work that I've done since. So it really has it's really become my life's work, the work that I do with women, not just in cybersecurity, but also in male dominated industries. I'm passionate and obsessive about changing this for the world, because I really fundamentally believe that the world will be safer, happier, and more prosperous when we get more women in male dominated industries. And we have to, for the
Yes,
safety
I agree.
of our planet, we have to do this.
Yeah, I attended one of your branding webinars and women in cybersecurity webinar, how you are helping women, and that's too, it was almost free. I mean, you are not charging for that. And myself, I was able to learn so much from that webinars that you conducted. That was really good, I would say.
Amazing. Yeah, I do. I have done over the years an awful lot. I've given a lot away, and that's great. There's a kind of like, well, how much? Often people say, well, how much do I give away, or you're giving away too much, and things like that. For me, I've always worked on the basis give to gain. So it has been a very genuine give. I want to help, but there's so much more behind the scenes. So it's just like, this is what you can get from doing a masterclass, and you know some of those masterclasses, and they have been
Yep.
masterclasses have gone on for quite a while. So
Yep,
they've,
I have seen quite a few you have done, and I
yeah,
think some of the CISOs have also benefited from
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So yes, yeah, that's
it.
kind
All
of
right, that's
what I've
great.
done.
That's really interesting to know your journey, Jane. All right, that's great. So, moving on to the next question that I have here. What are the key cybersecurity trends and predictions you have for 2021?
Yeah, so for me, I'm just gonna look at my notes because, funnily enough, I've just written a blog on this, and it's not released yet, but it will be. So
Maybe a few pointers out of that blog.
yeah, absolutely. So for me, really, I do see things like phishing. So last year we saw a lot of phishing. We saw an increase in phishing. That's still going to continue for this
Yeah,
coming year. It's just natural.
it's
Um,
there always.
exactly. Things like ransomware. So ransomware is going to increase. It's cyber criminals and attackers. They follow the money, so it's still an easy target. Supply chain attacks, we've already seen those. They've been talked about for
Yeah,
a long time. I
they're
mean, I remember,
increasing quite a bit.
so it's just that, again, it's easy money, easy targets. And interestingly, when I was certainly doing some research for the blog that's just about to come out, I was looking at open source as well. So there's been, I think last year there
Yeah,
was a 430% rise in attacks on open source. So that's going to be more prevalent, which is a huge concern considering the amount of companies that use open source.
so
So
software
it's
security really becomes important because of open source now.
absolutely. So we're going to see that. We're going to see, this is my predictions anyway, we're going to see attackers using AI and machine learning much more. They're
That's
going to
right.
be using deep fakes and the technologies that go
Yeah,
along with voice and video. We already saw a little bit of that last year. That's going to increase because the technology is there, and it's going to become easier to use and cheaper to use as well.
that's right.
The other, so those are kind of like some of the main things. And then of course we've got things like cloud security, so all the cloud. So we're going to be seeing more and more companies moving to the
Mm.
cloud. So as we kind of progress out of COVID, because what I saw last year was a lot of companies really kind of either, they had almost like two options. It's either like, let's just get through the now and be really present and do the 6-month plan, or we're going to
Yeah,
use this as an opportunity to actually make those changes, like moving to the cloud, that we had planned for the next few years, but because of
yeah.
the
They
remote
rushed into the
workforce.
cloud. Yeah, they had to rush.
Exactly. So it's kind of things like that. So cloud security, I think, is going to be much more prominent. Um, and also the beauty of cloud, when it is actually done correctly, is it can really help. Although there are increased costs, when you start off, and you do need to get it right, but it can free up some of the dependencies on the workforce. So
Yep.
when it comes to the workforce and the skills gap and things like that, interestingly, according to IC Squared and PwC, two reports that are quite fresh, we are actually reducing the gap in terms of the workforce, but there is a worry that that is purely because we've had a reduction in demand because we've had budgets cut and hours cut and reduced, and there's more of a reliance on the technologies to not necessarily to augment, but to take over and make employees more redundant. So it's a really kind of interesting situation, I think, that certainly
Yeah,
this
even
year.
I feel software as a service in cloud is also increasing because people can just go and take that service immediately instead of
Absolutely,
migrating to the cloud.
absolutely. And then the security skills are there with the cloud service providers. So providing it's implemented correctly, then it
Yeah,
can do a lot of good. It can get them the agility and the cost effectiveness and that reduction in security expertise because of the cloud security cloud service providers. So
yeah.
those, I think, are really the main things that I expect to see coming. one of the other things, actually, I'm just thinking about it, is the zero trust. I know
Yeah.
you sent me off to you sent me off to a really good article on IDG, I think it was, and they mentioned zero trust rather, and so things like that I think are going to become more mainstream, as an approach. So for me, I like change. Change is natural, change is nature. So I'm really kind of excited to see what actually happens.
Yeah, that's one of my question, the next one, which we'll talk a bit more on zero trust. So let me go to the next question. So as we discussed just now, knowing the COVID-19 pandemic situation and the new normal, on one hand, IT teams faced shrinking budgets and mobility restrictions due to social distancing. But on the other hand, concerns around cybersecurity, remote connectivity, and infrastructure resilience only increased. I mean, what does 2021 have in store for cybersecurity? How can cybersecurity leaders, CISOs rise to the occasion? I know you mentioned about cloud, and now we have to go back and reassess our security posture and how we are doing on security controls. But is there anything else that you want to highlight where the CISOs or the cybersecurity leaders are prepared for the most critical trends or that's coming up in 2021?
Yeah, the only other thing I would add really to what I mentioned before is really about good cyber hygiene. So
Yeah.
again, in accordance with all of the data that's out there, it's just like 80% of the data breaches and compliance failures can be addressed with good cyber hygiene.
Yeah,
So
look
it
at
comes
SolarWinds. The
exactly.
developer keys were available on GitHub.
So it comes down to like doing the basics right. And it's like any
Yeah.
industry that you go into, it's just like if you can do the basics right, then you can actually do a really good job. So it might not be sexy and headliney and all of that and cool and like, what about this technology and what about these endpoints and things like this? But it really is the best place to start to make sure and to then incorporate some of these good practices into the flows, the workflows. So again, if you can use technology to do that, great. If not, come down to the basics, the fundamentals, which are your people. So we have to get this layer right. So for me, what I see, having been in the industry for so long, and hearing the same things be said time and time again, okay, right, fine, we hear about these sophisticated hacks and things like that, but by and large it's the same types of things that are occurring. And for
Yeah.
me, that's why it's just like, well, okay, what is the problem? What is the root problem? And that's why for me, I come back to it every single time. You have to build that layer. You have to build the people element. You need good leadership. So you need to know what good looks like, and you need to be able to recruit and train up and manage and lead a very effective workforce. And then you start to get your processes and controls in place, and then you start to like go into your technologies and things like that. And if you don't have that, then you really need to be outsourcing it and having a slim version, which is what most CISOs have, unless you're in a financial
Yeah.
services or a big tech or a consulting environment. Then it's just like most of the time it's just like small tiny teams and a reliance on suppliers and vendors to help you navigate all of that. So, which can be a nightmare with the amount of technologies that are out there and the amount of vendors that are vying for your time. So you've got to get that layer, that people, that human layer really strong and effective, and then build from there, build your
Yeah.
stack up. So, and
Yeah.
that's
I believe in that. I strongly believe need to have security culture in place. I 100% agree with you on that. We
and
need to
I think
have some culture
this
across the organization.
and I really think that's why we keep being owned. We keep failing. We keep having these compliance failures and data breaches and things like that because we're not starting at that level. It's like we start midpoint, and it's just like, okay. And then when you think about the majority of leaders, security leaders out there, aren't in a position for very long. So say I've had reports that they might be in the roles for under 2 years. So 21 months, I think, is the average. Well, you can't do a lot when you go in and if you've been there for that amount of time, it's literally you come in and you look at what's going on and assess, do gap analysis and things like that. Then you'll put in place a strategy and start to build on that. By that stage, really, if you are out in 21 months and you're not out because you've been sacked, because you're leaving of your own accord, then it's kind of like you've not done anything, you know. So then someone else inherits it and they come in with their thing. So it's constant change and not moving forward. So it's that doesn't help.
Yeah, and especially now it's COVID-19, people are working remote, so they need to have security awareness, the VPN they are using or not, are there enough security controls in place, and the kids are not using the laptops and trying to
this is it. I mean, it's a really hard environment. I mean, look, before COVID, we had a situation whereby there were so many reports of CISOs under stress and having to self-medicate, that whether that was through drink or drugs or whatever it was, not good. You know, it's just that if you want a performing team, you need them to be alert, to be energized, not worn out and burnt out, and then kind of getting to the end of the day where it's like, oh my God, you know, where's my beer, or where's my glass of wine, or right, fine, you know, I'm going to go off, you know. So it's you don't get good decision making based on behavior like that. So again, it comes down to the human, it comes down to that culture, and it comes down to leadership. So leadership of one, and understanding how to work through difficult times.
Just to add in, I mean, since I am leading quite a big team, so what I do is I always have fun days. Like suppose, for example, bi-weekly I do fun days, because it's not like always they are burnt out and they feel that I'm not being cared or what's happening. So I always do that with my entire team, not just the reporting managers to me, but I always do it with the entire team. So that's really good point that you mentioned.
It really is, and just kind of like checking in with the team, and just like, you know, in there when we were all like physical and things like that, you know, we would see people in the office, you could say hello, you could go up and say how's it going and things like that, but actually just giving them that time and having one-to-ones or small groups. You know, if you've got a large team, I've done this with my team, it's just like, okay, right, fine, there might be say 60 in the team, and it's just like, let's do some small groups, you know, teams of 10, or maybe 6 people will show up, and it's just like, how are you doing, talk to me, how
really
is it
important
for you, you know. So it's trying to minimize this whole kind of like screen time, because, or the meetings, the back-to-back meetings that everyone's going through. When we worked physically, you'd walk to a meeting maybe, or you could walk off some time with
you get less face time in the office now. It's more of the virtual time, so we have to make sure that they feel connected.
It is. So we might be doing, you know, really long, we might be doing easily 16-hour days. You know, it's very easy, especially in our industry, to do 14 to 16-hour days. It really is. Back-to-back meetings, here we go, not enough time,
extended hours.
Yeah. So
all right, that's great. Good to know that. The next question is about zero trust. So just want to know your thoughts. I know the IDG predictions for cybersecurity 2021 says that zero trust is one group of technologies that vendors and organizations seem to be doubling down on. So what are your thoughts on zero trust, and what as per your experience are organizations heading towards? Are there organizations really adopting zero trust, or are they still exploring? Like, the multiple options are there, right? And as part of zero trust strategy, you have micro-segmentation network, you use identity as perimeter, you use multi-factor authentication, single sign-on, that combination of software-defined perimeter with VPN. So what do you see? How is it going right now in zero trust?
So for me, I haven't had so much of a focus on zero trust, but I see more companies moving to that way of being. So that's all I can say on it now. It's just that it seems to be, to me, I mean, I want to, I do want to, but to be fair, actually, so where I am with it now is like, it seems like the right thing to do. Makes sense.
Yeah.
But I do see more companies moving to that. So it's being talked about more, and it's also being implemented more. But I also do want to, because I'm a big design thinker, I want to almost like not reverse engineer it, but I also want to check it. So check the thinking, and it's just like, is it the right, or should we be doing it the other way? Because there are initiatives out there that will advocate for actually, no, trust everyone. You know, so I think what's really important though is actually I mean, you've got zero trust, but it is the classification of data. It's just like how much data is needed, and removing the data so the data isn't being stored or collected and so forth. So there's a big cost to data, and then also there is the movement of data as well in transit, and then the security wrapped around it. So I do think we have to get better at what data we capture and store along with zero trust. So I think it, and then of course the permissions and user rights and things like that. So access privileges and things like that. So I think all of those in combination, again, coming back to the good practices, the cyber hygiene, can really help. So that's where I am with zero trust.
Yeah, just to add in, I would say I did a webinar last week on zero trust security because of the APT attacks that are increasing. So what just to add in my point there, that I feel that we should also start assessing our environment from zero trust perspective. It's not that we have to reinvent the whole wheel. We can start using some of the options available, like the least privilege, like you mentioned, the access controls and the micro-segmentation, something which we can start with the small wins and then look for the bigger strategies or bigger architecture changes if required.
Absolutely. And also from a machine identity perspective as well. So it's just like, well, we've got the human side and also, absolutely.
Device identity, exactly. And I'll wait for your research as we move forward. Maybe you want to write a blog later on zero trust.
Yeah, I bet I will. I think there'll be one on cyber, or there'll be one on cloud security, cyber resilience, and probably zero trust. I can see them writing that down.
That's great. All right. So the next one I have is you have been involved big time and doing great things for women in cybersecurity, and I have seen you doing a lot of presentations, webinars, and you have yourself written a book on women in cybersecurity as well. And could you please share more insights on what have you been doing lately on women in cybersecurity and the importance of self-branding?
Yes, so I have a world-class, very well established personal branding, executive presence, and program, and it's had various names over the years. But its latest name is In Demand 10X. So this is really a program that will, it's really it's a very full program. So it will look at your career, what you want, who you're serving, and it will look at your messaging. It will look at your voice. It will build confidence. So it goes through it goes through the imposter syndrome and things like that, and how to deal with that, how to manage it. So it's really pretty amazing. It will take you from being invisible or unheard to like building your confidence so that you can be more visible, more influential, more heard, in line with what you want. So it's not saying that you have to be like this. You are in charge of how you want to be, and you can direct and steer your career however you want and at whatever point in time that you want to do it. So, but it's giving you the tools. It's actually showing you this is how to do it as a framework. So it's like step one, this is what you need to do, and showing you exactly what to do and giving you scripts and things like that. So I've made it as easy as possible, all the way through to, right, fine, you either want to be an influencer or end up being an influencer like me, or you want to be a speaker or you end up being asked to speak. Well, how do you do that? Or, well, what happens about, when I go on to the TV or radio and media, they come knocking on the door, or when conferences want you to come and speak at their events. How do you do that? And then how do you manage it? So I go through all of this
All right, that's
all
great.
of this.
Is
So
it
you've
open
got
for all, anywhere in the globe? Anyone
Yes, yeah,
globally?
it's online. So last year what I did was I revised it again because I'm always improving upon it. And last year I put it I put it online last year. Well, it was online actually the year before, but I tweaked it last year, revised it, put it back online. So wherever you are in the world, you can get that and access it. And it's such an amazing course, and the feedback, I mean, I taught that program actually to 21 execs in Microsoft just recently. So, and they were absolutely blown away. Anyone who goes through that program is blown away with what they
Wow,
receive.
I'm sure.
But with
How long is
Intermonth,
this course? How long is this course? I mean, is
it's
it like
well,
short
it's
term
self study, so you can go at your
or
own pace.
self-paced? Okay.
Yeah, self-paced. There is support there as well, but it's five modules. There are lots of data sheets and exercises for you to do, but there's support as well from me in a group. So if you do need help, it's fine. You can like reach out during a period to get that support. Or companies can engage me as they do to say, come in, like let's do an hour a
The
month.
mentor session kind of.
Yeah, that type of thing. So last year I did that. I created another course just purely for entrepreneurs, put that online. That was really good. And that's called client attraction, client client attraction 10x.
Okay,
and
that's good.
and and the other thing that I have is a platform for women. So I've got a women's mentoring platform that was developed not last year, the year before. My plan was to release it last year, but we had COVID, so that didn't happen. It is coming out this year though, so that is very exciting, and that really will help with learning. So there'll be master classes, and there will be mentoring, so mentor matching and buddying up and accountability, and then there will be meetups and things like that. So whereby
Wow.
yeah, so really kind of
Yeah,
acting
looking
as
forward to that.
yeah, and that's global. So that's all online, and it really will. This platform will be acting as a hub for other women's groups. So I'll be able to connect and say, what I see is that we're quite disjointed. So there's so many great women's activities going on, but half the time
Yeah.
women don't know about them. So it's just like, okay, right, fine, come into this one. You're going to get a different experience. It also won't feel like corporate because we're all a bit fed up of corporate. We want something that is fun and is powerful and effective. So this one really will be very much a mixture um, of the practical exercises that we need to do, plus also some of the spiritual side of things. So it's going to be
Yeah,
really
very much
quite
important.
different. Yeah. So very much masculine, feminine energies, and the learnings of how to become stronger and more effective and more empowered, and resilient, so through various ways of being. So that platform I'm really excited about bringing to market and getting out, and that will be like a small low cost membership. So but it'll be very much community based. It's like we are
Wow,
going to
that's good.
charge the hill. Yeah, we're going to charge the hill with this. It's I'm
All
very
right.
excited about it.
Yeah, sure. Looking forward to it. That's great. Thanks for sharing those details. I do have a couple of other questions for you.
Yeah.
The next one is, what do you do during your free time? Do you get enough time to spend with your family and friends? And then, what are your thoughts on work-life balance for cybersecurity professional? Because I know it's like 24/7 job for
Yeah,
our cybersecurity guys. We need to be always available, always on kind of situation.
exactly. Yeah. So for me, I tend to walk my dog a lot. So that's probably the main thing that I do. I'll read and I'll listen to podcasts and I'll do weights and things like that. But the thing that I mostly do is walk my dog. She's down here now with me sleeping. And what I used to do with her, I actually had to, well, I stopped this summer, but I used to cycle with her as well, so mountain bike. So I live in the countryside, but she's just getting a bit too old now, so I can't do that
Okay.
anymore. So she wants to. Her heart and mind is very willing, but her legs are like not as muscular and strong. So
Yeah,
she's a
maybe a
bit
small
athletic.
stroll, maybe a small walk is what
Exactly,
we
a
do.
walk is better for her. So it's mostly that's what I do, and I'll watch films and series and things like that, and hang out with my kids, and I'll cook, and yeah. But that's mostly what I do. And then I'm sporty, so when we can travel and things like that, then I'm off traveling and swimming and
Trekking.
yeah, snorkeling and diving and doing things like that, and skiing and
Wow.
snowboarding and yeah, all of those things. But we can't do any of that at the moment.
So how did you spend your time during COVID-19? I mean, is it more with the family or it was like self-study, or creating
Yeah,
something new?
what I found it to be a very creative period, so I actually, it was great. It was really nice. So I spent some great time with my kids. I've got three kids, but my eldest one lives with his girlfriend. So he's not living with me and my other two. But I mean, I worked, I
Connected.
created, yeah, and we had the music on, we were painting, we were eating well, we were
Wow.
dining under the stars outside, barbecuing. It was really nice. I was walking my dog. It was great. It was really nice. And yeah, and the weather was actually really good in the UK. It was amazing. We were so lucky because that doesn't always happen. But it was a really nice period actually but it was up and down. It was almost like this is a really long year. It almost seemed like the year became 2 years, and then towards
Yeah.
the end of the year, it was like, oh my God, where did the year go? It was like it's sped up. So, but so many things happened last year.
Yep.
So many things
2020 is a
happened.
remarkable year for everyone. It's not
Yeah,
forgettable.
yeah, yeah.
All right. Yeah, I mean, anything that you want to highlight, like how do we ensure work-life balance and avoid burnouts, in addition to what you mentioned, that spend more time with family, go for walks.
Yeah, you have to be intentional. So it's just like I was having a conversation with one of my coaches. I invest in coaches, I recommend coaches, I am a coach. But I was talking, funnily enough, I was talking to her this morning actually, and I'm a leader who leads by example. And if I don't lead by example, I expect to be called out on it because that's just like, and I'm a human, so I can't get it right all of the time, but I'll do my best. And I have people around me to like pick me up and say, you're slacking off, or like step up, or whatever. So for me, it really is about being the change. So it's very easy to work in environments where the culture is so and so. You've got to do these long days, da, 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 da.
Yeah,
But you have to be that change. You have to be the change that you want to see. So it's just, and that's hard, it really is. But in order to change things, you have to be it. And what I see with many leaders is there's a lot of talk, but we're not walking the talk. So whether
yeah,
it's gender diversity or more women in or less stress or better working environments, da da da, or things like, say, for example, I can think of a situation. So I'm working with a company and I'm doing back-to-back meetings and long hours. Yet the policy might be, well, you've got to have a break from your desk, every so many hours. It's just like, well,
yeah.
I'm doing all these back-to-back meetings, so that's not happening. So in order for it to happen, you have to first of all, you've got to be clear. You've got to have you've got to be intentional. So this is what I want, so that clarity, and this is how it's going to be. And then you have to make sure that you are putting things in place and in practice. So it is, because
That's really good
otherwise,
advice, I must say. That's
yeah,
really good advice because I know people will just keep dragging hours and hours of meetings and not taking any break and completely burn out. So having voice out and making it intentional, it's really important.
exactly. It's
That's
like,
really true.
how do you want it to be? And then putting reminders, I'm looking at my office here, but putting reminders around you, and also you can use other people and things like that. But it's very, very easy, particularly if you are a hard worker. So I struggle with this. It's very easy for me to come into the office and be in here from 8 o'clock in the morning to 10 at night. with maybe less than half an hour break. It's very easy for me to do that. It's actually quite natural for me to do that, but it's not healthy. And eating at 10 o'clock
Yeah.
is not healthy, and not having a break is not healthy. And I know I won't perform to my best, and I know that I'm more. It's a faster route to burnout, and it's also a faster route to the grave. So it's just
Yeah.
like to burnout, illness,
Health
things
is
of
wealth.
that. Exactly, health is wealth, and we know that right now with the whole COVID. So if it really is an opportunity, and especially at the start of the year, to put in place that intent, how do I want it to be, and how am I going to ensure that it is going to be like that? Because if it's not with the company that you're with, we'll go and find a company where you can be like that, because they're out there.
Yeah, and I mean, fortunately, the company which I'm working with, we always have like keep drinking water, be hydrated, keep taking breaks in between, like every 1 hour, go for a small walk, come back. So that's we are following that culture.
That's
So
amazing. Well, this is it. When you do that, it's really, or even having a plant on your desk. I know that sounds really silly, but there's actually
yeah,
been
exactly.
research to say that,
All my team members have plans.
yeah, if you can't get out and get close to nature, then the next best thing is having a plant, and that will affect you more positively than not
Yeah,
having a plant on your desk. But ideally, you want to get out and having a bit of a
that really
break and
helps.
getting
Yeah.
getting some time
All
in
right,
nature.
great. Thanks for that valuable advice. Moving on, are there any books or publications that you're working on, or any such announcements you'd like to share? I mean,
Funny
you
enough,
mentioned about blogs, but anything
yeah,
else?
funnily enough, I am actually working on a book, and I think this book will be another happy accident. And so I'm just not sure. I need to have a chat with my publisher as to what it's going to be called, because certainly for me, when I walk my dog, it's thinking time. So I naturally don't think, but then end up thinking. So it's like fresh. So yes, there will be a book that will be coming out, and I
All right.
really strongly suspect the book will be for navigating your career. So
Okay.
it will support some good books out there, some books that my friends have done, but it will be all about your career trajectory and how to do
Yep.
that, and probably focused more on women. So how women have built their careers from coming from different industries, like say mine, or different avenues, as well as computer science and other STEM subjects.
Stan, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. That's great. And any other announcements you have? Any projects that you want to highlight?
There
I mean, I know
will
you mentioned
be,
about the entrepreneur self-paced program, and you also mentioned about the woman platform that's coming up. I think those are
yeah,
some of the things, right?
there will be something else that will be coming, but it will be, I'm not going to announce it now because I want it to be a
Okay.
surprise.
Secret. Highly confidential, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
All right.
yeah,
Sure, we look
yeah.
forward to it.
Yeah, it will be really good for the industry. It will be good. But some things I'll do under the insecurity movement. So things like the women's scholarships that I do every single year with Black Hat, and then the code of conduct that I do under the insecurity movement, and the pledge. I mean, there's talk of me actually resuming the pledge next year as well. So that actually might be something that your listeners could be interested in. So
Sure.
yeah, things like that. But those things will come under the insecurity movement kind of initiative.
All right. That's great. All right. So the last question I have for you is, what are your closing points and key takeaways for the cybersecurity professional as well as the CISOs and leaders who are watching or live or maybe watch the recording later? If any key takeaways that
Yeah, be the change you want to see. I mean, really, I think that's the summing up of what,
you
reach
want.
out to me. Obviously, yeah, if you need help with attracting and retaining women in cybersecurity, if you want training on personal branding and executive presence and influence, which really everyone needs, quite frankly,
Yeah.
then reach out to me on that. Because because I've got the availability, or if you're interested in my women's platform, my women's mentoring platform. So, but other than that, it really is about being the change and
Yep.
leading that. Be the change you want to see.
All right, that's great. Yeah, that's all I have. It was really interesting talking to you, Jane, and really had
Thank
fun
you.
time. I don't see any questions right now in the chat box or the question panel. So I think we covered most of the top questions,
Yeah,
so that the
that was great.
viewers want to hear. So it was really interesting talking to you.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thanks so much for having me. Thank you. And I
Great.
will
Thanks a
speak to
lot.
you. I
Have a
will
great
speak to you soon.
evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let me stop. Okay. All right. Thanks. Bye bye.